with Portia de Rossi. We're talking about her brilliant book, Unbearable Lightness. And when you started writing this book, I think it was a healing process for so many things that you actually didn't realize still needed healing. One of the things was the death of your father. You were 9 years old, and that is it was a surprise of how much healing still needs to happen, and you talked about it the other day in this.
My childhood was a very happy one until I was 9 years old when my father passed away very unexpectedly. And I'm 37. I thought that I would have been completely over it by now, but the fact is I never got over it because I never went through it. I mean, how do you deal with a crisis like that at 9? And in a way, I felt like really grieving him would be a disservice to his memory. I really wanted to show him, sorry. I wanted to show him that I was just as strong without him. So as you can see, that was definitely the most interesting part of this whole experience because it happened such a long time ago. But it just shows you if you don't really deal with things that are emotional and traumatic, they kind of resurface in other ways. So that was definitely a part of this experience for me.
Now look. I know.
Crying.
I know. This.
You promised you wouldn't make me cry.
I didn't promise that. I chose not to look at it because I cried earlier when I saw the tape. This has been a book that she has written, and there's been lots of crying. And every time she'd read a segment, she'd read it to me and start crying because this is processing a lot of stuff you've never shared before. And this is something that, you know, I mean, it doesn't, you don't just write a book and get over it. You're still processing, you know.
Yeah, I am. And, you know, it's one thing to write it because I was in the privacy of our home and I could read the passages to you as I, you know, felt that I wanted you to learn about them. But now it's just hard, you know. I mean, I have a book. It's available for everyone to read. And although that's the point, I didn't really think it through because it's... Don't read this book.
That's a great...
But it's just hard to talk about, you know. It's harder to talk about than it was to write about, obviously, because, you know, I didn't care if there were tears streaming down my face at home. But
and you talk about the struggle with the fact that you were closeted. I mean, there were a lot of things you were hiding. The secret about you're keeping that a secret about your sexuality. You're keeping the secret about how you were eating and how you were living. And but those didn't have anything to do with each other. It's sort of...
I mean, they did, but I think that I would have still suffered from an eating disorder if I wasn't struggling with coming to terms with my sexuality, because I really had the eating disorder because I started dieting when I was 12, and because of my lifetime of chronic dieting, I think that it would have just taken a hit TV show or that kind of pressure to look a certain way for me to go into a full-blown eating disorder. But it sure didn't help that I was hiding who I was because, oh gosh, I mean, who I really was completely unacceptable. I mean, there were no lesbian actresses in the history of acting. I had no real gay role models. It was a very tough time. I mean, you came out the year before, and I remember just watching you thinking, this is the litmus test. Like, if she loses her career, then what chance do I have of starting my career?
And I lost it.
And you lost it.
I didn't help you, did I?
You didn't help?
No.
Well, it wasn't you. I mean, it was, you know, it was I mean, it was a message. It was a message that, you know, the industry sent out to gay people at that time was, look what can happen. I mean, you're celebrated for a minute, and then it all just comes crashing down. So, I mean, you know, it was a really difficult time, And, you know, keeping a secret like that is just so toxic. It's just so horrible. And you're just really kind of, you know, locking in all of that shame. And it really is part of the reason why I wrote this book, is because I'm just living a more honest and more open life now. And I don't want to think of a part of my life and kind of cringe and not want to own it. You know,
You're going to help so many people with this book. I mean, I can't tell you the people that have read it so far, and we have people in the audience who have read it, who have questions, and it is going to help so many people. And we come back, we'll have questions from the audience, and then a tape, I guess, that I have not seen yet of you talking about me. We'll be back.